Hi, I'm Cameron McKenzie. I'm the author of JSF Made Easy. I'm also the editor-in-chief over at theserverside.com, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about internationalizing our applications. So in the previous tutorial, I created a little application with nothing more than a little hello world file. If I open that up, you'll see basically all it did was just use a couple of custom tags, a couple of JSF tags, the output link tag to create a link, a little bit of output text to spit out, hey, you're Java certified. Up in the title, we didn't even use any tags. We just hard-coded in some text. Even did a little bit of hello world here with an output text tag. And yeah, looks like I even got a little facelets tag there for helping me debug. It's a nice little application for getting started, but one of the problems with it is, well, it's all in English, which means nobody in the United States would be able to actually understand it. So we need to be able to support languages like Spanish and French and things like that. One of the neat things about JSF is the fact that it helps us do that. So how can we internationalize this application? Well, first we look at the various little places where we've hard-coded a specific language, where we've hard-coded English in there. And what we then do is we then create property files for each language that we want to include in our internationalized application, and we create keys for each of those little elements. We've got HW underscore title, HW underscore hello world, HW underscore link description. Each of these represents a different spot on the page where we've hard-coded some text in. And so in order to start doing some internationalization, what we do is we create these property files, and one for each language, and we place them somewhere on the class path. I'm going to create them right inside the classes directory, and I'm going to have 4 of them, and so I'm going to create 4. The first is just going to be a default one. The second will be for English. Third one will be for Spanish. And seeing that I'm Canadian, I would lose my citizenship if I didn't make one for French as well. And so these go just directly on the class path. I've thrown them right into the classes directory here. If you're using an IDE tool, you may have a source folder, but you have to make sure that at runtime they're available to your runtime environment. Now, of course, those files are pretty boring. What I need to do is I need to, well, actually put the English stuff inside the English properties file. And that's the key value settings, the key value pairs. That's the English. There is the Spanish. I'll save that. You notice that the keys now point to Spanish translations, poor translations, I am sure, because I think I just threw them into Babelfish or something like that, but hey, it'll do. There's our French file. And then finally, it's always good to have a default, so just in case somebody doesn't comply with one of those languages, well, just have a default set up there. So these are my various different property files. They're just set up with key value pairs, HW, and then the actual name. By the way, I've used underscores. Often in JSF 1.2, you see people using dot notation. Don't do that. That will mess up the current expression language version that's working with JSF. So if you see dots, periods in there, delineating in the keys, get rid of it. I mean, it's okay over here in the value side, just right there. Something for you to know. I've seen a lot of problems on that. Anyways, what do we need to do next? Well, we need to actually take these little elements here and say, hey, don't just hard code and spit out text. Go to those files depending on the language of the user. And the way we do that is just, I don't know, using the various custom tags and specifying the name of the key inside the resource bundle. Now that word bundle there, it has to map to an actual specified bundle. So we've got this nice little tag that we put on any of our XHTML pages called loadbundle, and it says load a resource bundle, an internationalized resource bundle. The base name is i18n. That maps to the name right there of our resource bundle. And the variable name that will be used on the page is just bundle. And you can see that bundle word gets used all over the place. So I'm going to add that. Nice little piece there to my Hello World page. And then I'm going to go through and just copy and paste these things here to help me internationalize. So that's how I internationalize the title. So I get rid of the hard-coded content. And instead I use the JSF custom tag and reference the key in the resource bundle. Similarly, where it said Hello World, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to hard-code it. I'm going to go to the resource bundle and find the Hello World key. Now the other thing I've done here is I've got away from the SCJA, Sun Certified Java Associate link that takes you to the book that I wrote on getting Java certified. And instead, I'm just going to link to Google. The reason I did that is I don't own the French version and the Spanish version of SCJA. So I've just sent people to Google in these cases. And you can actually see up here that what we've done is we've actually internationalized the links. So we go to Google Espanol, Google French, and Google.com, depending on which language the person comes in as. I think that's about it. Just look at my UI debug tag on there. I've internationalized the link. That does emphasize the fact that it's not just text that you internationalize, but you actually internationalize images and links and a variety of things inside of your code. I think this all looks pretty good now. Notice that's the F tag being used there, and F is from the core library. I think that's our first look at some of the core tags. But I think I'm pretty good at this point. So what I need to do next, well, one of the steps that people often forget is the fact that you have to tell the JSF framework which locales you're going to support. And that means going into the faces-config.xml file, which you'll find right there in the i18n folder. Going into the faces-config.xml file and adding in an application element. I don't even want to close that application element. And then listing all the different locales that you're going to support in your application. So you click Save there. I think that looks good. The default locale is English, French, and Spanish are also supported. Looks like that is all well formed. I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to re-war up my application. So I'm just going to use the java-jar utility, create an easyjsf.war file that I'll put in the Tomcat web apps folder. When I go into the web apps folder, there's the easyjsf.war file. I deleted the old easyjsf application that had been deployed, and I'll just start up the Tomcat server right now, and we'll actually see a new easyjsf folder will be created. The application will deploy. Looks like everything has gone fairly smoothly. And now I'm going to go to Chrome and bring up my page and see what happens. And everything looks good. In Chrome it says Hello World. Check out the link below. It's google.com. That looks good to me. I'm going to take this same URL, the exact same URL, and plug it into Internet Explorer. Click refresh. And notice here it says Bonjour. Take a look at this Google Francais link, and it says it all in French. I had to do a refresh because I kind of had the old one in there. But then even the title of the page has been internationalized, and that's because under Internet Options and Languages, I've specified French as the default language. And finally, when I go to Firefox, notice that it actually comes out in Spanish. And again, that's because I've gone into Firefox, and under Languages, I've specified that I want Spanish to be the default language. And so this one gets internationalized as well. And so we have one application, but it's behaving quite differently depending on which browser is being used based on the language setting and the language preference of that user. Now, one thing I should mention is this actually, it's a neat little feature, but if you're internationalizing hundreds of pages, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put this into each of your hundreds of pages. And JSF does provide a slightly better option for internationalizing your applications. Instead of using the load bundle from the core JSF tags, you can actually just specify resource bundle, the name of the base name of the bundle, and the variable name to be used in your code right in the faces-config.xml file. You can go in here, add that in. Again, it goes within the application tags. Don't put it outside. And you could save and redeploy, and that will have the same effect. You can actually then go in and remove that load bundle tag, and you'll get the same behavior. It's a really good idea to actually configure it at the XML level, the faces config level, just because it does have a global implication. And I do believe if there's a conflict, it's the faces-config.xml file that actually wins. But again, i18n, that will just map to the name of the base name of the property files, and then of course the bundle property just maps to the name that's actually used to reference the resource bundle inside of the XHTML page. So you can see bundle, bundle, bundle. And there we go. That's about it. Now, as I said, I am the author of JSF Made Easy. If you're interested, go over to Amazon and pick up a copy. Otherwise, thanks a lot for taking a look at this tutorial, and happy Java programming.